and welcome. This video is going to be a what sold for me video on all the various platforms that I sell on. I do have two platforms to share with you for the week of March 15th to March 21st. So I'm going to go over to Poshmark first because I have one sale to share with you for Poshmark. But I was so very grateful for this sale. I sold this pair of Nike Cortez, like vintage inspired. This is not actually a vintage pair of Nikes, it's a modern pair of Nikes, but they like re-released it for a hot minute. These were in a women's 8.5. They did fit me, but it's not really my jam. So I just put them up for sale 2.5 years ago and they finally sold. You can see I got 27 likes on this and no one would buy it. And then someone finally just paid full price for it. So I sold this for $20 and of course on Poshmark the buyer pays for shipping. So very grateful for this sale. Just so very grateful for that sale. So those are finally gone. And then I'm gonna scoot over here and we're gonna do eBay, which is of course my main bay. And I sold this vintage cookbook. I went back to California. This West Coast cookbook is like from, I believe, the 50s. It says 1952. I can read all right. Amazing. And yeah, I'm just happy. I think I bought this for like $2 at an estate sale. I was also super grateful for this sale. Glass bake is not as popular as Pyrex and Corningware is. However, there are a few pieces of glass bake that are very valuable for collectors. There are people that do collect glass bake. The reason why glass bake is not considered as collectible and there aren't as many people that collect it is because they didn't really name any of their patterns. So I sold this. This is not one of the valuable ones, but I did pick this up for $1 at a garage sale. Yes, I did go to a garage sale. It's rare, but it does happen. Normally when it's like right next to an estate sale is when that happens. But it sold for $5.90 and the buyer paid $10 for shipping. So I'm just glad that it's gone off to a new home and another piece of vintage glass will not get smashed and trashed. This is something that I should have listed a very long time ago. It sold within 2 weeks of me listing it. I paid less than $1 for this at an estate sale in Smithfield. This is Nesh by Dar, and I'm just happy it's gone. It was merino wool. It's been in my house for like 1.5 years and didn't have anything nom on it. My house is pretty moth proof. I have like cedar and all kinds of stuff everywhere just to like keep everything good. But again, just really glad that this is gone. And again, this is another thing that's encouraging me to list because when you list it, it sells. This is something I'm actually very surprised that it sold as quickly as it did. This sold within a couple weeks of me listing it. Lisa Todd is one of those brands that has a high retail price but not a very high resale price. There are a couple of pieces from Lisa Todd that do sell pretty well. It's normally like the pop art pieces. This sold, like I said, within a couple weeks of me listing it. The reason why I'm surprised is because it's a very unassuming piece. And I thought I was going to have to model this after a couple of months if it didn't sell. But nope, it sold for $16 and the buyer paid for shipping. This is a super lightweight cotton piece, so it might have just been somebody who was wanting to get something nice for spring. This is a vintage 70s bunt pan. I try to stay away from using the word bunt just because I don't want to get a Vero. So it's fluted tube pan, even though this is actually a bunt pan. It is by Bunt. But it sold for $10 and the buyer paid $12 for shipping. I picked this up at a hole-in-the-wall thrift store in Brahamsville. Sorry. And and yeah, as soon as I listed it, again, a couple weeks it sold. So things are moving pretty quickly when I am actually getting around to listing them. Except for this marmot piece. I actually picked this up when I was doing the collab with Josh, Amber, and Matt. This marmot is one of the brands that is in Matt's manifesto, but this did take like 6 weeks to sell, which is still within that 90-day period that the manifesto says that if it's got a decent sell-through, it's going to sell within 90 days, most of the time. But this sold for $15 and the buyer paid $5 for shipping. This sold through promoted listings. I very rarely do promoted listings, but I do it sometimes, and I did it for this piece. This piece results in a thank you to Brett. This is something he gifted to me and sent to me in my P.O. box when I went full-time as kind of like, starter pack, go! Go do the thing, be the win. This is a brand new pair of Callaway golf shorts and it sold for my full asking price of $24.87 and the buyer paid for shipping. So Brett, thank you very much. I do appreciate this sale. Speaking of appreciating y'all and your sales, Christopher, thank you very much for purchasing this little dino pot holder for me. I picked this up at an estate sale for like a quarter, and he bought it for $3.90 and paid for shipping. He likes, you know, dinosaurs just like I do, just like most people do. I think most people go through like a dinosaur phase, right? Right. Unless you're Tim from over the years, and then you go through the dinosaurs don't exist phase, but I just find that so fascinating. He's such an interesting person and very knowledgeable in glass and ceramics. So if you want to learn more about glass and ceramics, definitely check out his channel. But Christopher, thank you very much for buying this for me, and I hope the little dino has a good home with you for another, hopefully like 40 years. There is an outlet in Williamsburg, and the outlets, when stuff doesn't sell, sometimes donates it to the Goodwill, and I found an entire size run of these Vans Carlo long sleeve chambray shirts. I have sold now 2. This is the second one, and this was a size medium. Sold for my full asking price of $19.87, and this was actually free shipping. This Columbia piece went to a viewer, Cary. Thank you very much for this sale. This is something I also had picked up for the collab with Matt, Amber, and Josh. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I will link that video up above. But Cary, I do appreciate you purchasing this. He also recently purchased a pair of shorts for me, so Cary, thank you for that too. But I will also thank you again when I get to next, or this week's sales. Yes. Time is confusing and a construct for humans. But sold for $12.87, and he paid for shipping, so thank you, Cary. This is something I picked up on Style Alone. I do love my vintage, as this is from that big estate sale haul. I haven't listed this yet. I'm hoping once I get done with pants, I can start listing those vintage pieces. But I picked this up on Style Alone. This is Radcliffe by Sag Harbor. You notice I didn't even put that in the title of the listing because this is a vibe. Women's clothing sells on trends and vibes alone, it seems like to me. But it sold for $13 and the buyer paid for shipping, and I'm glad it goes off to a new home and hopefully it'll be on someone's Instagram sometime soon. This is a Columbia piece I picked up at the Air Force retiree's house, so I paid less than $1 for this, and it sold for my full asking price of $11.87, and the buyer paid for shipping. This is another thank you to Brett. He sent me this giant gallon bag, a Ziploc bag full of vintage postcards that he picked up at either at a estate sale or at a bins. I'm not quite sure which one he did, but he sent it to me saying, like, I know you love ephemera, have at you. So I started listing them. I've only listed about 20 of the 200 probably postcards that are in there, but this one sold for $4.87 and they paid $1 for shipping. eBay has a eBay standard envelope, which you can send up to 3 postcards, some trading cards, or stamps. They have like a specific thing for this type of ephemera. So I just charge $1 flat rate. And yeah, it worked out pretty great. So hopefully I can list and sell more of the postcards. It was really cool. I definitely just enjoyed the heck out of going through them. And it's not, it doesn't seem like it's a Bob What's Sold video unless I share a tie. So I actually have 2 ties to share with you, but this is the first one. This is a Tommy Hilfiger tie. It sold for $9 and the buyer paid for shipping. This is something that I am very grateful that it sold because this was actually sitting in that giant basket that was in my bedroom. It's a pair of Harley Davidson shorts, cargo shorts. Well, they actually weren't cargo shorts, they're just a regular pair of shorts. And it sold for $23.90 and the buyer paid for shipping. And so it's a great motivator and a way to keep me engaged and interested in doing this declutter. 1, because I'm seeing space again in my home, but 2, because stuff is selling, and it's like, it's very satisfying for me. So I'm very happy that this sold, and it sold for so quickly. It sold within like a week of me listing it. This Johnny O piece is another piece from that collab I did with Matt, Amber, and Josh. So even though they didn't sell within the first 30 days, like I stated in that video, as long as they sell within 90 days, that's kind of what the manifesto is all about. And it sold for $17 and the buyer paid padded flat rate for shipping. This is another vintage piece, No Fear. I will say that all No Fear sells eventually. No Fear is a vintage brand from the 90s and the Y2K era. Their t-shirts are what really sell. Like, they're wild and crazy, like big graphic t-shirts are what sell the best, but No Fear will still sell. So this sold for $15 and the buyer paid for shipping. This is another thing that came from my de-hoarding efforts. It's a pair of 560s. And this was just a $36.30 and it sold for my full asking price of $24.87 and the buyer paid padded flat rate for shipping. This is a really nice bundle and also again another thing from my de-hoarding efforts. So she sent me offers on all 3 items and I just accepted all of them, mostly because I didn't really have a whole lot of a buy cost. This little vintage mid-century needle book I paid like 5 cents for. The little cat I think I paid like $2 for, and then the blanket I paid, gosh, I think I paid like $4 for it at an estate sale. So everything sold together and was really easy to pack up for $30, and she paid $18 for shipping, and it was like $15 or $16 to ship it to her, so it was pretty close. And I'm really happy. I've been getting a couple of bundles on eBay recently, which has been really nice and very surprising, but this was like really happy, and she's already left me great feedback, so I'm really happy about this. This is something I had picked up recently, and since I was doing bottoms, I figured I might as well list this right away. This pair of Chubbies. This is the first time I found a Chubbies. It was at a thrift store in Goodwill in Williamsburg, and I paid like $4 for this, and it sold for my full asking price of $21.87 and the buyer paid for shipping. The reason I only charged $22 for this pair of shorts is because it had like a weird discoloration on the butt. I just disclosed it. It still sold within like a couple of days of me listing it. Another sale from the declutter. It's a brand new pair of Not Your Daughter's jeans. It sold within like less than a week of me listing it, and it sold on offer for $20 and the buyer paid padded flat rate for shipping. I think I paid like $4 or $5 for this at a CHKD, and I'm just glad that it's gone. This is something I picked up because it was too cute to get thrown away. It is a vintage Union made like little child. I really don't sell children's stuff, but if I find something Union made, which is pretty much all vintage, and it's super cute, I had to sell it. I had to save it. So I had paid like $3 for this at a DAV and it sold for $6. So did I make a whole lot of money? No. But did I save something from getting thrown away in a landfill that is just absolutely adorable? Yes. And sometimes that's all I really want to do, even though probably in a business that's not what I should do. Another thing for my de-hoarding is a pair of Levi's silver tabs. So silver tab is a loose baggy fit that came out and was really popular in the 90s. They did do a re-release of it for like a year. It was like of the silver tab. So not all silver tab is vintage, but most silver tab is vintage, and this was a vintage pair from the 90s, and it sold on offer for $20 and the buyer paid padded flat rate for shipping. And then the last item I have to share with you was something that came out of my kitchen. Yes, I know this is a weird thing to come out of my kitchen, but this is another de-hoarding thing, and it's a Givenchy tie. It's one of the icon ties. It's from the 70s. This did have a spot on it, which I of course disclosed, but it still sold for my full asking price of $12.87, and the buyer paid for shipping. So I'm really happy that this de-hoarding and very, very avid listing is resulting in sales, and it's resulting of me getting my home back. So I'm really appreciative that you guys have been watching those videos, and I'm really happy when you guys send me messages both on Instagram and here in the comments that it's like encouraging you all to get your space back as well. I know most YouTubers like to share like the pretty background, but everyone knows that there's a mess behind the camera somewhere. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope this was helpful or interesting to see what kind of things are selling for me. And I will see you guys in the next video in a couple of days.